Hello there and welcome to this game review. So this is quite an unfortunate game as you mentioned yourself, and these mistakes are definitely avoidable. This is why we will be learning how to blunder check. So the opening went quite well, nothing very special happened. Here of course a6 is kind of a useless move as the opponent clearly states that he will take on c6. There is no point in asking him what he's going to do. Instead we should just fight for the center. Since all of our pieces are developed, we have castled, so the last thing to do is to fight for the center. There's not much else to do in the opening. So a6, bishop c6, and rook e8 and d5. So black is fighting well for the center, a5 and a4 as well, taking space on both flanks, and white is for some reason not castling the king, which means he will be playing without rooks and with the danger of getting attacked by the pieces. So bishop a6, and now this bishop will be extremely powerful. g4, g5, and takes, and already black is winning a pawn. He takes, white has to capture of the queen, and here you decided to play queen takes d3. And generally this game was played way too quickly. Even here you still have 15 minutes. And in chess, time is a resource. Just like every other piece, everything is a resource which we must use accordingly. So if we are not using our time to its full potential, then we're really missing out on good moves. And here bishop d3 was much more powerful, leaving the queens on the board since clearly the opponent's king is much more weak than ours. And for example, after this, e4, e3, we will open up the opponent's king. We have plenty of pieces attacking it, and the opponent's rooks are also out of play. So black is just winning. But okay, now we get an endgame. The endgame is of course also good as we have the bishop pair and an extra pawn, but it could have been a lot better. A few moves later, the first blunder happened, and here the move is c3 is maybe logical to open up the opponent's king, trading off the bad pawn, but all of this does not matter, as before making the move we must check the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. And after the move c3, this is also important to first visualize that we have made the move and then do the blunder check, because now, as we see, this pawn doesn't defend this bishop. Turns out the opponent can take it, and using this pin, he has just won a piece. So after c3, what did we have to think about? Checks, no checks available. Captures, starting from the biggest captures, this is a move and this is a move. Otherwise, rook e4 or b takes c3, but these are pawn captures, so they are less relevant. So now white has won a piece, but on the next move he lost it back. And after this, white had only one move, which is maybe not the most logical move and not the most intuitive move, but such is chess. On every move, we have to make decisions. And after this move, now black doesn't have the check that he had in the game, and white is winning because he is a piece up. Next, he will move away the rook, slowly capture this pawn, and realize his advantage. So instead, king takes b2, and now we found this tactic getting out of the pin with a check. So if the king moves, he would take. Here we take anyway. And now, after rook e8, black is an exchange up, so he has a rook for a bishop, and his rooks are quite good. Black should win by advancing his kingside majority. He has 4 pawns against 3 over here, so he should try to create a passed pawn over there and win the game that way. And this is what happened, so this part was played very well, f5, h5, and now we have this passed pawn. So this passed pawn is also on the board, but it's still quite far away, so it shouldn't really be anything special. So next, rook h8, putting the rook behind the passed pawn, very good sound positional play. And next we just have to move the passed pawn, so h4. Next we can get the rook out with king g4, h3, and the further the pawn goes, the more dangerous it will be. And slowly but surely, black's rooks should overpower the bishop, because they can also defend this pawn and also make sure that b8 is not a promotion square. So instead king e6, but this king, it could go to stop this pawn, this is fine, but then there's no one to get this rook out of the way for this pawn. And here, with 10 minutes on the clock, you unfortunately blunder the rook in one move. and this is what decided the result of the game, which white won. So you could say white didn't deserve to win. Maybe that's true, but after all, the winner is the one that makes less blunders. So on every single move, we must take very big care. We must be very thoughtful and think about the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. So of course, if we could take this pawn for free, we should, as it's a dangerous pawn. But the question is not whether we should or should we not. The question is whether we can. And here the answer is no, we cannot, because of the only capture in the position. He is in check, so he is forced to capture. And now the game is over in white's favor. So instead, of course, black should do something else, just promote the pawn h4. The king should probably come back, and this pawn is handled by these rooks, and this king could help promote the pawn. So quite unfortunate, but this is something that will repeat itself all the time if you don't change it. Right? So this is why we must deliberately do blunder checks before making any move, however obvious the move may be. Ask yourself about the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. So hopefully this was useful, and see you next time.